Hello everyone, welcome to the next training of asset accounting lean implementation. So the next topic for training within the lean implementation part is asset data transfer. With asset accounting configuration settings in place, as we already did till the last training session, now you should be ready to transfer your old asset data from your existing non-SAP system to SAP system. So within this section we will discuss how to maintain the correct status of the company code for data transfer, what are the different data transfer parameters to be defined, and the different methods available for transferring old asset data into SAP system. So you can find the table of content or the different customization which we will be doing under the asset data transfer. So it includes set company code status, then it includes specify parameters for data transfer workbench and asset fixed assets, and then create, change, display legacy assets. So these are the different customizations which needs to go within the asset data transfer. Now starting with the first one, that is set company code status. Within set company code status, an asset accounting company code can have any one of the four settings designed in the SAP systems that we will be looking after in a while. So what we will be doing in this set company code status is we set the company codes to the status for old asset data takeover. As per the standard, the company codes that has been assigned a chart of depreciation for asset accounting are set to test mode. Now probably this will the SAP screen will give you a better view what I mean to say. So let's go with the SAP screen. Now in this we need to go to the path first. So for that you need to execute the transaction SPRO, enter. Now click on to SAP reference IMG, and then we need to go to financial accounting. Within financial accounting, asset accounting, and within asset accounting we need to go to the first step, that is asset accounting lean implementation. You can expand it, and within that you will find the third topic, that is asset data transfer. So if we expand that, you will find these four different customization steps has been provided to you on the screen. So the first one is set company code status. If we execute that, as you can see the screen now, so this is our company code 1200. That is what we need to look for. So that is what we will be looking out for. So as saying that an asset accounting company code can have four options, any one of the four. If you go to this status field, which is in modifiables part, and F4 on it, or you can select the F4 function 4 key on the keyboard, you will find these four options on the screen. So that is what I mean to say, that an asset accounting company code can have one of the four status designation at any point of time. Either you could have a status as 0 or 1 or 2 or 3. You cannot have two at a time. So where 0 refers to asset data transfer completed, 1 asset data transfer not yet completed, 2 test company code with data transfer always allowed, and 3 company code deactivated, later reporting allowed. So out of these, when we do the configuration of asset accounting, and in the very third step, when we assign the chart of account to a company code, the system automatically takes the status as 2, that is test company code with data transfer always allowed. Because under this part we are still in the configuration phase, where we will be testing a lot of data transfer activities and all, whether the configuration are in place, are working fine or not. So this status 2 allows you to transfer old assets data and also the postings within the SAP system on the screen. So now once we are in the test mode, and later on when we move forward to go live, when the company have done everything and it went on to go live the project, the status is changed from 2 to 0, implying that the data transfer has been completed and there is a production data in the system, preventing any accidental deletion. So once the project is in a go live stage, the zero status has been changed to 0, and in that case nobody can go and do any kind of a deletion of the data within the live production system. So this is the first step, where you just need to understand that when we do the configuration of asset accounting, the status will be 2, and once we are done, all those activities have been completed in the production system, when the data, all the previous data from the old system has been transferred to the SAP system, then the status needs to be changed from 2 to 0. So that is all about this particular part. And in case in any kind of a worst case scenario, if the company code is deactivated, then you can take 3, so that nobody can do any kind of a posting within deactivated company code. So this is about the set company code status all about. At this point of time we will not be changing the status, it will remain as 2, because we are still in the customization phase, where once we complete the customization we will be going and testing the data with respect to asset accounting. So save it and then move back. So this is about the first step. Now moving to the second step is specify parameters for data transfer. Under this particular step, we specify the control parameters for transfer of legacy data from the old system or from the previous system. So there are a number of different parameters which has to be set, like one is the date. So the date format needs to be assigned. What date format it will be? Day, then month and year, or first month then day or year, because country to country it at times varies. So the date, which will be the value date for legacy data transfer to the SAP asset accounting component. This date also determines the last closed fiscal year for the asset accounting. So at which date we do the transfer, on the basis of that date the system decide that what was the last fiscal year for SAP system. The second parameter we need to set is period up to which depreciation has already been posted to the general ledger account in the old system. So from where we have been taking the data, probably there will be certain amount of depreciation has already been posted to that particular month, from which till what month we are taking the data to the SAP system. So whatever the depreciation which has been taken there will not be taken up over here in the SAP system. So that let you know that till which period depreciation has already been charged on assets in the old system. The another one parameter, if your legacy system contains only the net book value rather than the depreciation values and historical APC, you can transfer even the net book value to the SAP system. Then the next is depreciation area, for which the system should recalculate accumulated past depreciation. So the number of different parameters, if we go and execute this next step of parameter for data transfer, if we go to this step, it will give you a list of different activities. As I said, activities refer to the different parameters which need to be assigned over here, need to be customized, so as accordingly those activities will be performed. So if you go to the first activity, that is specify recalculation of accumulated depreciation. If we double click on this first step, it takes you to the next screen, and in this you can select your company code, and then you can go on the left hand side to calculate accumulated depreciation, and you can double click on that. So in this case, what you can do is you can recalculate the accumulated depreciation from the past based on SAP depreciation rules. When a depreciation area is newly entered, as we enter number of different depreciation areas, second, the value from a depreciation area should be recalculated in the system. So in case once we define the different depreciation area within the SAP system, and we define the different rate of depreciation for them, in case you want to recalculate the accumulated depreciation from the past, in that case you can do that. So for that we need to go and we need to select this checkbox on your right hand side, that is calculate, and that calculate checkbox, if you select any of them, that means it will recalculate the accumulated depreciation value. So this recalculation is based on the condition that the acquisition values was acquired completely at the time of capitalization. So it's up to you whether you want to go for recalculation of accumulated depreciation or not. In normal cases it doesn't happens. We never go for a recalculation, because whatever the data come from the client side so as to upload in the SAP system for asset, they always provide you an accumulated depreciation, and that is what we always take up in the SAP system. We never go for a recalculation of those particular values in the SAP system at all. So that is it. Moving back now, once more back, and now moving up to the second is specify depreciation periods posted for transfer during fiscal year. Now in this step is only necessary if you want to perform an old asset takeover during the fiscal year. In most cases, to be very practical, whenever we go for any implementation project, the go live normally used to be at the starting of the fiscal year, that is 1st of April or maybe 1st of January. So but in case it could be number of different cases are there that the go live comes up in the middle of any of the year. So in case there is any such data transfer done from the old system to the SAP system during the fiscal year, in that case you must specify the period up to which depreciation was posted in the old system. So because if you don't let the system know until what period of the last of the fiscal year depreciation is already been taken in the old system will start calculating those depreciation for those periods as well. So in that case it may become duplicacy of depreciation for the same period, because it was already been taken in the old system or the previous system, and the SAP system will also calculate that. So if you double click onto this particular step, specify depreciation period posted, you will find the company code. So we can go and we can select the company code, and then we can go to the left hand side to period in which depreciation was posted. So if you double click onto this, and in that you will find these number of different depreciation areas, and here we define the different periods. So those periods can be assigned. This period basically refers to the posted depreciation that is to be transferred during the old asset data takeover. So the common thing which over here we need to do is we need to define the fiscal year and the period under which fiscal year we are in, and what is the period for which the depreciation is already taken up in the old system. So that is what you need to just go and have to define over here on the screen to it. If you double click onto this, Okay, it's in the gray part, so it will be in the change mode, and you can fill that over here on the screen. So this is about the period for which depreciation has already been charged in the last or the old system that need to be maintained. Now moving to the next is specify transfer date. Specify transfer date. Under this, we determine the transfer date for the asset data transfer. So there will be a date which will be decided on which we will be doing the transfer of asset from the old system to the new system, that is SAP system, and this date determines the status of posting to be used for transfer. So if you double click onto this as specify transfer date, you can see over here our company code is this. So you can put the date over here on the screen whatever you wish to, and whatever date you take it over here on takeover date in the last column, that date will be taken up as a takeover date, and that date determines the status of posting to be used for the transfer. Posting up to this date will be included in the transfer. So till 31st March 2015, if you take as a takeover date, whatever different postings take place till 31/3/2015 will be taken up as those transactions, those postings will be taken up as a part of transfer, not the actual date the data transfer is carried out. So this is what you need to take up over here. Now if the transfer date is not the last day of the fiscal year, as I said, as on the screen this is the last day of the fiscal year, in case it is not the last day of the fiscal year, system interprets this as transfer during the fiscal year and not at the end of the fiscal year. The system cannot transfer any historical transactions. It can only transfer cumulative values from the end of the last fiscal year, and a transaction in the current fiscal year will be taken up, that is the second is only possible for transfer during the year. So you have to take care of this takeover date, that is very important to be taken care of, and accordingly the transactions which will be taken in the SAP system will be decided whether they are a part of takeover or whether they are part of a normal transaction within the SAP system. So you can maintain as per your date. If I take it as 31/3/2015, you can take any other different dates as per your requirement. Now moving to the next is specify transfer of net book value. Now if you go and double click onto this step, if you want to transfer the net book value also, in that case you need to go and you need to select this checkbox. So if the net book values are available in your old system, instead of accumulated depreciation values and historical APC, then the net book values can be entered during the value entry instead of ordinary depreciation. So if you need your net book values, you can take the net book values in the SAP system, and in that case we don't need to take the values for accumulated depreciation. So maybe due to different countries may have this option of transferring data, and in that they may transfer the net book value and they don't need any accumulated depreciation or such. So the ordinary depreciation amount is then calculated as the difference between the acquisition value and the net book value and the other depreciation values, for example special depreciation. So you can select this checkbox if in case you need to have the net book value over here, and you can save the screen. So in that case it will be taken up as a net book value to be taken for the assets. Now moving back, next steps comes up is specify recalculation of base insurable value. Now when we transfer the data, the SAP data from the old system to new system, it may be that you would be looking to recalculate the base insurable value for assets as well. So if you want, you determine whether the system should recalculate the base insurable value during old asset data takeover. In case you wish to, in that case you can go and you can do that as well. So you can double click onto this last step and you can select this checkbox. So that checkbox will have an option of recalculating the base value. So you can see that checkbox is what it does the same thing. So in this what it does, it is determine the depreciation area, the company code for which the base insurable values is to be recalculated during old asset data takeover. So you can even go and have select this particular option of recalculation of insurable values. So that is about the recalculation of these all parties. So out of these, what is more important for you is to specify the transfer date. Recalculation of insurable value or recalculation of accumulated depreciation, these are something which you will never find as a feasible, as a very practical part in a practical companies or practical scenarios. So what is important in that is to specify transfer that date to be taken up. So this is all about the part of your specify parameter for data transfer. So whenever we go for any kind of an asset transfer of asset data from old system to the SAP system, we need to have these parameters in place. So now moving up to the next is data transfer workbench. Data transfer workbench is a central transaction for automatic transfer of data from a legacy system into the ERP system. So what it does, it transfers the data from your old system to the SAP ERP system. It offers the tools required for initial and subsequent data transfer. So when we do these transfer of asset from the old system to the new system, it's not so simple, because there are around thousands of assets, fixed assets within the company, depending upon the size of company. It could have 10,000 of assets, it could even have 50,000 of assets to 1 lakh of assets as well. So having those data gathered, a spreadsheet is prepared, and then on the basis of from that spreadsheet the values are uploaded within the SAP system. So how that can be done? It cannot be done manually. So what SAP did is it came up with its own tool so as to upload those assets in the SAP system. So in the automatic data transfer, this data transfer workbench is a very important tool, in which if you go and double click or you can execute this step, you will find the screen on the system that so as to transfer the data, we need to create it as a project. So transferring the data into the SAP system is a different project in itself. So this project needs to be created so as to manage the asset transfer. So we need to create this project, then we need to process the files, and then those assets are created within the SAP system. Even in case of legacy data transfer basically means taking the data from the old system is known as legacy data transfer. So even there are different other methods also for transferring the data from the old system to the SAP system. Like one of those method is direct input method, in which with the help of certain programs we can transfer a large number of assets from the old system to the new system. Even there is another system of batch input, and then again there is a BAPI. BAPI is a technical word used in SAP. So BAPI is some kind of a program which is provided by SAP so as to upload the assets. So BAPI is basically used when the number of fixed assets are more than a lakh, or you can say more than 1,000 of assets, 50,000 to 1 lakh over. So this Workbench basically is used to transferring the data from the legacy system to the SAP system within the uh, is what it's all about. So we'll not be going how this has been processed. This is just to give an overview. You can create the project and can move with one by one steps. But to be practical, this is not used in a practical scenario so as to transfer the data. What is used is a legacy program is prepared by SAP, that is known as LSMW, Legacy System Workbench Request. So that has been something created, and by that the assets are transferred to the SAP system. So even LSMW, you can refer to one of the videos if you could have the whole course with it. Now moving up to the next is your create, change, display legacy asset. So moving up to the next step within the asset data transfer is create, change, display legacy asset. Now this particular step is not an automatic process, but it's a manual online transfer where you can manually create one by one asset. You can put the value, and then the value will be taken up in the SAP system. So if you have got a large chunks of data with you, a large chunks of asset with their values, it would take considerable amount of time to do that within the SAP system. So even it could take days and weeks if you have got huge number of data within the SAP system from the within the old system, which has to be taken up in the legacy system in the SAP system. So we can see this how this has been done. But yes, if you want, you got a huge list, then an LSMW can be prepared for the same manual transaction, and that can be uploaded with a spreadsheet. And in that case, the same, whether it could have thousands of data assets with it, with its value can be uploaded within couple of minutes within the SAP system. So let's see how this has been done. Execute. So you can find these number of different options within it. One is termed as create legacy asset, change legacy asset, then display legacy assets. Now create legacy asset basically means that you can go and you can create an asset. An asset is created depending upon the old depending upon an asset from the old system. So what it system does over here, it help you to create the master data, as well as you can upload or you can put the value to that particular asset at the same time. So you don't have to go to a different two transactions, first just to create the asset master, then again the second step is to put the value in the asset as well. So we can go and we can double click onto this first part of legacy asset. So you can see now this is very simple step where you need to take the company code. So the company code taken up over here is 1200, and you can take your asset class. So you can go to F4 function 4 key on your keyboard and enter. So this gives you the whole list of asset classes that you have, and we will be taking up 80020 which we had defined, and that is what we will be taking up over here. So once you take up this value, now we can enter on the screen, and once you enter, it takes you to the next part. So these screens which are reflecting to you are known as asset master data, where we used to fill the general data like the detail of the asset. Like I take it over here as Dell computer. I can put some serial number to it. So that is what been taken. If you have any serial number for the asset, you can take that serial number over here. If you have the quantity, you can put the quantity as well. Moving down, you can put the capitalization date. So suppose the capitalization date is 01/2014, so you can take that over here, enter. So these are the general data which we filled up on the first tab. Moving to the second tab is time dependent. So in the second tab you can put the time dependence data, like the business area, the cost center, to which particular plant or location this asset will be put on to, then who will be using this asset. The personal number can also be taken up over here. So in case in companies these assets are given to the employees, so employees has a personal number, so to whom what asset is been given, you can track that by putting the personal number over here. So that is what you can take over here. Moving up, allocations. So in allocation you can define the different kind of allocation. The investment reasons can also be assigned, so that can be taken up. Moving to the origin part. Origin is if you have the detail of the asset, from who is the vendor of that asset, who is the manufacturer of the asset, then is the asset new, or is you have purchased a second-hand asset. So the country of origin, to which origin of that particular asset belongs to, and the acquisition year and all. So you can put all those origin of that particular asset details in this system. So these can be used later on so as to track those assets, vendor, its owner, and all those things. Next is net worth tax. If you remember, we discussed a lot about net worth valuation. So over here you can put the classification key, to which category you want to divide your asset. Then you can take up the property indicator, whether it is an owned property or it is a leased property. Then you can come down and you can have your valuation reason, like if you go for F4 key, you will find the valuation reason which we defined, if you remember, Z01. And then you can put the manual net worth value over here as well. Suppose I defined in manual worth value of 50,000 to it, so that can be defined to it. You can take the classification keys. If you remember, we have seen earlier that you can divide your assets into different groups or different categories, so that can be taken up over here on the screen. So these are the different things which you can take. And then moving to the last tab is depreciation area. So in this you decide your depreciation key as per the different percentage of depreciation to be charged on the asset. So different assets has got their different depreciation percentages, and accordingly they have got a different depreciation keys for that. So that can be defined over here. Next is useful life. You can take the useful life of the asset, so whatever you wish to, as per the asset life decided by the company, or you can take that over here. And then we can go and we can so you can see now these all details which we have filled are related to the asset master data. So once we have filled, have taken up these different input for master data, now we can go to, you can see over here on the header, takeover value. So once these details have been filled, we can go to this takeover values, and if you click on to takeover value, now the system takes you to the next screen. Now in this screen, when we transfer the value from old system to SAP system, now in that case, in old system the asset will be having certain gross value and certain accumulated depreciation, which gives the net value of the asset. So in this case over here, you can fill the whole detail, like 70,000, I take it as a gross value of the asset, the acquisition value, and probably there could be certain amount of depreciation charged with the number of usage which you can track in the old system, and that is taken up in the SAP2. So suppose 20,000 rupees is the depreciation being charged till date in the old system, so that can be taken up over here. And when you enter on the screen now, oh sorry, we can go back with this yellow option. So you will see over here that the net value is now 50,000. So this is what should match with your old system. In your old system, the net book value will also be 50,000, and the same value has been taken up in the SAP system as 50,000. So this is what 01 depreciation area. and on the basis of these values only, the future different periods now onward will be depreciation will be charged on that in the SAP system. So this is for depreciation area 01. Similarly, you will be having different depreciation areas, and those different depreciation areas could have their different gross values. There are different depreciation, because for different accounting acts, accounting different accounting legal system, the different percentages applies at times for the same asset. So that can be taken up over here on the screen. So once you take up these values, you can go and you can save this, and that will create your asset over here. So no, all right. So this is how we'll be filling up these detail, and then we can go and we can save this over here. So we can fill the same thing over here now. The same thing you can decide, or you can have some other detail if you have. Even if you wish, you can, it can vary as well. Suppose I take it as 80,000. So until you fill all these details in those filled, probably you will not be getting the save option over here on the top. So without you fill these all detail, you will not be able to save the asset data. So now we can go and we can save it, and as we saved, you can see now the asset 1 with multiple zeros, 2 has been created. So this is your asset number. The Dell computer 1234 asset number is 1 multiple times 0, 2. Similarly, you are supposed to create multiple assets, and in case now this we have created, we have taken certain amount of values. Now later on, now when we come to know that there are certain changes to be done in the asset master, or maybe in the asset value, in that case you can go to the second option, second activity, that is change legacy asset. So if you double click onto the second option, you need to put the asset number over here, whatever the asset number. So probably you may not find the asset number over here, because there will be multiple assets. So which asset you want to make changes to, you need to take that asset number over here. Suppose I take the asset number over here, and then I can go to my master data. If I need to make changes to my master data, I can go to master data, and I can do the needful changes. Like suppose I take it as the plant is 1200. Suppose I take the room as 103. Similarly, you can have a personal number 132490. So suppose I fill these detail which were earlier not been filled up, and then in case you want, you can save the system now, and the changes has been saved. Similarly, if you have any change to be done in the amount, then you can again select the asset, and you can go to the takeover values, and you can change the needful values over here as well. So whatever the changes you do, once you do those changes, suppose I make this over here as 25,000 now. You can see the value has changed to 45,000 now, and now I can go and I can save the system. So that you can find it over here. So you can once you have defined, you can change those values even later on, because changes can happen at any time, any number of times. So these are for creating and for changing it. And next is for display. So display will only display you the detail of the asset. You will not be able to do any changes to it. So you can go, you can check the time dependent, the changes has been done over here. Then you can go to allocation, origin, depreciation. Even you can go to takeover values as well, as you can see over here on the screen, and you can have a display of that. So this are the different legacy asset master data creation to be done and the value to be taken up. So this is basically a manual step, manual process which is taken up in this. So these are the different transfer data, asset data transfer customization which needs to be done in the SAP system. And this last step which we covered just now is basically a practical, is a business transaction. It's not a customization, but just to have a look, I just went through with that as well. So this is all about the asset data transfer part within the lean implementation. So with this, we have covered all our asset data transfer customization today. So you can go and you can have these practices done further. You can create number of legacy assets, then change them, change the value, try to change the master data details, and then you can go and you can check back whether those changes has been taken up in the SAP system or not. So that will give you a real amount of boost how things works within the SAP system. So that is it in the asset data transfer part. We'll see you in the next training session with the next topic of lean implementation part. Till then, thank you, take care, have a nice day.